What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? 中秋快乐 and happy Mid-Autumn Harvest Festival. How are y'all doing today? And the interesting is that today is also National Coffee Day. It is September 29th, so National Coffee Day and the Mid-Autumn Harvest Festival, which is kind of an interesting thing. Like, we talk about coffee all the time, and on National Coffee Day, we're going to be talking about tea. So how y'all doing? Hope everything's well. We're here talking tea. It's the Mid-Autumn Harvest Festival, which is the big festival in Chinese culture, and the farther outside of China you get across Asia, the less important it becomes. Right? I mean, Chinese culture in Asia is very impactful, so there's a lot of people that follow it. But while the Chinese and Taiwanese and a bunch of other nations will take a week off for vacation during this time of the year, other countries like the Philippines and stuff like that, they don't really follow. They don't make that a national holiday. But here in the United States, we do kind of just kind of follow along with it. And the best part about it is that you get to have mooncakes. And so mooncake is the quintessential way to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. Actually, tomorrow, Saturday, September 30th, they're going to have a big celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival in Philadelphia. So if you're in the area, the region, and you have the time, you want to go check it out. It's supposed to be the biggest event celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival on the East Coast. I'm sure there are people doing big things in San Francisco and places like that, but here on the East Coast, Asian Americans United is an association that puts it on. I've got a link down in the description in case you're interested in checking it out or maybe even going. So if you go, let me know what happens. And so today we're going to be checking out some mooncake and tea, right? So let us start with the mooncake, right? So the mooncake is something that you will share with your family on the Mid-Autumn Festival, and they always come in nice little packaging. Like this is from my local Asian market, and this is run by this old Chinese couple, super nice people. Like, I've known them for many years, like decades now. And the woman, they're elderly, and she's such a nice woman. She kind of reminds me of my mom, and we have a nice rapport. And this is the mooncake. And the mooncake, it comes in these nice presentation boxes. One thing about Asian culture, they're very much about presentation. The Japanese, the Chinese, Koreans, everybody's really into the presentation aspect. It's super important. This particular mooncake has nuts and salted egg yolk. So let's open this up here. Now, there's normally, well, it depends how you can buy them. Some places you can go, if you go to a bakery, you can buy them individually. There's no real Chinese bakery here in Baltimore, so we get them at the markets like this, and they come sometimes like this one in packets of 4. They also come with some utensils, which is kind of nice, but we're not going to use those today. So here it is. Let me get that out of the way. This is our mooncake, and these are commercially made, so they come wrapped. This particular mooncake, let me just see what. This is a mixed nut mooncake. And so the mixed nut mooncake typically will have things like peanuts, watermelon seeds, pumpkin seeds, a whole variety of nuts. And they're all meant to have a very particular meaning. So like benevolence, goodwill, welcoming, courtesy, things like that. And then this particular mooncake has the salted egg yolk, and there's a whole salted egg yolk inside here, and that gives a nice salty, eggy kind of juxtaposition to the sweet maltose and nut filling. But it's also important to symbolize the moon, the full moon. So the big part of the Mid-Harvest Festival that happens during the full moon. I've got a little more details down in the description about how it works. It works on the lunar calendar that the Chinese use, and so it usually falls sometime between mid-September to early October. So every year it's a little bit different here in the United States. So I was just kind of thinking, I need to keep track, because this is really the only time that it's okay to eat the mooncake. And as you can see, the mooncake itself is pretty small. Like, so what happens is, good morning, Mom. How are you, man? How's things in New York? So we've got Chinese lettering here. Oh, let me open this up. Let's open it up. Let's get it out of the packaging. It comes with a little bit of a desiccant to keep it fresh, but it's really weighty, right? You can see the it's got Chinese characters on. I can't read Chinese, so I don't really know. It always has some kind of goodwill message on it, and it's formed. The top is pressed out, and there's filling inside, and it's really, really dense. Like, it's, if you eat one by yourself, that's quite a task. Like, it's heavy, it's dense. Whether you're getting this one that has the mixed nuts or the maltose, or there's other ones with lotus seed or red bean paste, they're always very thick and like rich. And it's really meant to be shared with family or friends. So you'll typically them up to 8 people will normally eat one of these, and then you share them, like even a quarter. To me, that's a lot. I'm like, well, that's a lot. That's a lot. And so every year during the Mid-Autumn Festival at Spro, at the main shop, we would always offer these for our guests and a pot of tea. And that way anyone could come in and share their pot of tea, share their mooncake. And, we just like to celebrate that and share that with people. But yeah, there it is, the mooncake. I kind of dig it. All right, so we're going to put this aside because now we need to make the tea. So this particular mooncake has a lot of... Oh, Dan, so this morning, did you end up drinking the decaf? I did. I did drink the decaf during last night's session. It wasn't as sweet as yesterday morning. It was a little bit different, but still quite enjoyable. Went well with the cigar. But like I was saying, so today we're going to be, what the thing is to think about. Okay, so we've got our mixed nut with egg yolk mooncake. What kind of tea do we pair with it, right? So this is going to be a pretty assertive, strong, rich, sweet mooncake. Some of the lighter ones, you could use things like white teas or maybe green teas, depending on which one you're having. But for this particular one, it does have a lot of robustness. So we want to match that. We want to meet that robustness with a tea that's going to stand up to it, that's going to hold place against it, right? So I decided that we're going to go with a nice red tea, a pu'er tea. Now, in tea talk, you may hear people talk about red teas and black teas. For the most part, red and black are interchangeable, right? They're just different ways of describing it. I guess more the Chinese side of the world or Asian side of the world would describe teas as red, whereas the Western world will describe teas as black, but they're really the same, right? They have the same amount of, more or less, the same amount of oxidation of the tea leaves to get that black or red color. But in case you hear that term being thrown around, people say red, people say black, they're really in the same range, right? There's no real difference. So the pu'er, I got this pu'er, and I didn't get a tray. We'll just use this little plate here. So this is a pu'er that I got. Actually, this is a pu'er I sourced from Rishi. I just have it lying around. And what is pu'er? Pu'er is a tea that is normally aged. It's an aged tea, right? And so these are aged. They tend to be a little bit more robust. They're definitely more oxidized than your typical teas, or that they're the most oxidized of teas. And these can also be compressed into cakes and aged for like decades. Like some of the most like valued teas in the world are compressed pu'ers. They come in these cakes and they're wrapped. And honestly, there are certain types of tea that just are not available to us, like us as Western buyers or no Chinese buyers. You just don't get any of that stuff. Like they just won't sell. My understanding is that they just won't sell it to you. Now you really have to build a relationship. Like one of my friends who's now the tea buyer for this company out in Portland, he's built good relationships with his, with the tea gardens and the tea masters out in Asia. And I think he's starting to get access to those kind of teas, like the really beautiful, the ones that are truly coveted by these tea masters. But we're going to use this, and what we're going to do today is we're going to use a ratio of 3 grams of tea for every 6 ounces of water. And that's a good ratio to use for black teas or red teas, 3 to 6 grams, 3 grams to 6 ounces. So we're going to measure that out here. So we're going to make 12 ounces because, that's what we like to do. So let us measure out. We're going to need 6 grams, which actually should be quite a bit of tea. Oh, I said 6 grams. Oh, that's 6 grams. Very good. So now we've got that. So that's going to give us 12 ounces. And we're going to, what are we doing? We're going to make some tea. Now there's different ways you can make tea. We're just going to make a real simple way of making tea. We're going to use one of these like Chinese style teapots. This particular teapot, nice and heavy. So just ceramic, not porcelain. I wouldn't say it's porcelain. Probably just a good clay ceramic, but super kind of heavy. Like it's heavy and thick. Like it's thick and Chinesey, right? Lots of Chinese stuff written on it. So it's very Asian. It's very like appropriate for what we're doing. And it's cold at the moment, right? It's cold. So I'm going to take a little bit of hot water just to kind of warm it up slightly, because we just want it to be a little bit warm. We don't have to make it totally hot. Right? That's the one thing, especially as we get to the colder months or air conditioning, your porcelain will be a bit on the cold side. Now we're going to take our tea. We're just going to put it in here, get it all in there. And we're going to add a little bit of water to that. We're going to add maybe that much water. Good. I'm not being very careful here. You'd think that I'm using the Zhōng food plates. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Okay, so now we've got this tea here. It's been there for like 10 or 20 seconds. I'm just going to pour it out now. Try not to lose too much of it. This is just rinsing the tea. All right, now we're going to add our real water. So just off the boil, we're going to add, we did what, 6 grams. So we want to do 12 ounces, which is about 300 or normal 350, right? There we go, perfect. Then we're just going to cap this off. And we're going to wait about 2 minutes. Where's my timer? We're not, in coffee, we're very much about like being very precise about time and all of that. But today, in the world of tea, I've never been taught that we need to be that precise. So here's our timer. We're going to let that run for about 2 minutes. And then we're going to taste the tea. Oh gosh, that doesn't work at all. Anyway, let's pull this out. I'm going to pull this little tray. We'll use this as our accessory. This is the gong fu tray. So gong fu is a style of making tea that is like a master's way of making tea. There's a whole set with it, but it comes with these. You can use these trays, and you can pour your water over it. It's really quite nice. Like for example, I'm going to take this. I'm going to preheat this cup, and I don't have to worry about spilling it over because it's meant to be contained. Now, meanwhile, while that is waiting, we're going to take our cutting board, and then we're going to bring our mooncake. We're just going to cut up our mooncake. I'm going to cut it into quarters using a serrated knife here, but really I'm not doing much sawing. It's just a matter of trying to push through it. There we go. So as you can see, here's our filling, and the yolk. The yolk is. So there's the mooncake itself. Now I'm going to take and put that on a plate. This looks like the exposure is a little bit much. Let's turn that down. We're about minute 46 now. Let's get this out of the way. We'll just put all this to the side. Now we can pour that down. Now this is I think it's a Japanese cup, not a Chinese cup. Sorry if we want more authenticity. I don't have a lot of authenticity going on. Aztec, good to see you, man. How are you doing today? Okay, we got 2 minutes into our brewing. So we're just going to pour the tea. There it is, nice and red. Look at that. That is pretty. You don't really need a lot of time to steep. 2 minutes is just enough, especially if we're using the right amount. Again, we're using 3 grams per 6 ounces. And we've got our mooncake, our little mooncake sliver here. I'm gonna take the piece right off of that front at the corner, so we get a little bit of that yolk with all of the different nuts. Look at that. Oh, maybe I should do the Mark Wiens and be like, I don't know if you guys follow Mark Wiens on YouTube, but he's one of those like food bloggers, and everything he eats, he loves. Even when he doesn't love it, you can tell that he doesn't like it, but he'll still say he loves it. All right, let's have a taste. Now this is gonna be real dense and real thick. And there's a lot of nuts. The maltose is what holds it together. And then some of the pu'er. Pu'er has this kind of interesting pungency to the nose. That's good. The nice thing about the mooncake, it's got the layering of the different nuts. Like you can kind of feel the pumpkin seed nuts like on your palate as you break through them, because the maltose is what holds it all together. And it's really pleasant. Gosh, maybe I could eat the whole mooncake. And like I said, the pu'er has this weird pungency right to it. And I'm going to add a little bit more. And the interesting thing is it's got this pungency on the nose that really smells to me like Tetra fish food, right? If you've ever smelled Tetra, the fish food, that aroma, it has that aroma. Or one that reminds you, but the flavor is not that. Like it's got a really rich, thick flavor. But of course, remember the pu'ers. Like we're using a pu'er. This is a pu'er that was I sourced from Rishi Teas. But all pu'ers are different. So much variation in pu'er. Like I had this guy on one of the discussion boards. I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday or not, but we were talking about coffee, and he makes this statement about I did mention this, the coffee and tea thing. And he was like, tea is nowhere near as complex as coffee. I was like, are you? What tea are you drinking? Tetley? Like, yeah, I get the sentiment, right? I get it. Like, we're enthusiasts about coffee, so we want coffee to be the most amazing beverage on the planet that nothing else can suffice. But I don't know, man. You give me some tea. There's some beautiful, complex teas that are just amazing. Like you take an oolong tea and you do the gongfu process on it, or either you brew it in the gongfu style, and like it's so amazing. It's like amazing how like the oolong will morph and change through each steeping, each brewing, right? It's so amazing. It's different. It's so different than coffee. Like they'll be like saying that coffee is better than wine, and I'm like, there are amazing wines. There's amazing everything out there. You just got to be open to trying it. Yeah, the guy is clueless. Yeah, the pu'er to me, I'll be honest, like Dad loves pu'er. Pu'er traditionally for me has always been the most challenging of the teas, because it can be very pungent, because it can be, for my lack of a better way of vocalizing my thoughts, sometimes it's very like offensive. Like it's like in your face. It's very like assertive and like full. I was for a while, I was really onto a lapsang souchong kick. Like I was like, give me the lapsang, give me that nice smokiness. But what I would do is I would always do a first brew, like minute or 2 minutes, dump it, and then do the second brew. And then that took away that really pungent and heavy smokiness. I know some people love that, but I like the idea of like, I really like mellowing it out a little bit. So the smokiness is a little bit more mellow. I do enjoy that. But then again, Earl Grey, I love a good Earl Grey. Now I'm used to eating in my hands. Here's the thing. I don't know if this is true for like a lot of other cultures, but being Filipino, one of the things that we enjoy doing is eating with our hands. So man, there are times when I'm eating by myself at home, fork and spoon. Before you know it, you're using the hand because there's something so guttural about eating with your hands that it's just so like intimate, and I don't know. I think it gives a little more deliciosity to your coffee, to your food, because you can feel it, right? Like in a fork, it's so removed, but here you can feel the texture. You can feel the resistance as you squeeze, right? If I squeeze here, there's a resistance to it. Dan says that the smoked lap song is difficult. I understand completely. Some people hate it. Hate it. Totally understand. But I like that weird smokiness to it. That is nice. And the pour. Oh, a bit of leaf. Oh, so like I said, today is also National Coffee Day. So if you go to Dunkin' Donuts, they are giving away free coffee with any purchase. So if you buy a donut, get a coffee. Krispy Kreme is also giving away free coffee without having to buy anything. Although if you go to Krispy Kreme and you don't buy their donut, why did you take all that effort to go to Krispy Kreme? Like Matt just came by the other day with some Krispy Kreme he got from an event. I hadn't had Krispy Kreme well over 10 years. I had one bite. I was like, oh my gosh. So, like I used to get them hot, right? Straight from the fryer. But even cool, like I was like, oh my goodness, it's got such nice texture and flavor. Of course, it was made that morning. The next day, terrible. Don't even bother with it. Maybe microwave it. That might be all right. Dan says sometimes you get a light smoke in pours that was stored in a traditional. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah. I haven't really been able to explore much in the tea world. And here's the interesting thing about me is that I'm actually much more of a tea fan than I am of a coffee person. Like coffee is what I ended up doing professionally, but I grew up drinking tea. So my foster grandmother, she would always have Lipton tea. Like we lived in a very working class part of Baltimore. And so Lipton tea, hot with a little bit of milk, a little bit of honey. That was our deal. So I drank that most of my young life. And then I, of course, living here in the East Coast and in Baltimore, iced tea is a big thing. Not sweet tea like in the South, but iced tea. Some of it's sweet, sometimes it's not. Nowadays, I don't really want to have any sweetener in it. And then my father was the coffee drinker, but he was drinking things like Taster's Choice, the freeze-dried stuff. So I never liked it. Like it was always too bitter. Coffee was always too bitter for me. And so I grew up not liking coffee. Even coffee ice cream I felt was too bitter. I was like, oh, that is not pleasant. And so as I eventually got into coffee, one of the keys for us was always to how can we make coffee much more approachable and enjoyable, right? Like, let's say coffee ice cream. One of the things that when we started developing a coffee ice cream, the big goal was really to make it sweet and enjoyable. That was the first thing, right? How do we make coffee ice cream enjoyable? Because I didn't think it was enjoyable. And then the technical thing for me was like, how can I make this coffee ice cream taste accurate to the origin they're using, so that if you put 4 of them next to each other, you could discern the origin differences in the ice cream. And then the component I thought was even bigger hurdle was how do we make it not brown, right? Like to me, coffee as an ingredient is one of the worst ingredients in the whole culinary sphere. Like I utterly hate coffee as an ingredient. Hate it because you know why? It imparts this ugly brown color to everything. Like the colorant of coffee is so strong that it just makes everything look like a mess. It looks like a mess most of the time. And so how do we make coffee ice cream taste like coffee, taste accurate to the origin, and remove the color. Those were the big goals. That was about 10 years ago. We were really working on that pretty hard. I think we were very successful. I did figure out a way how to do it, get that flavor, get that originality of the differences, and more importantly, remove the color and make it taste good. Actually, a friend of mine, I gave the recipe to him, and he uses it whenever they make coffee ice cream. They use the basic approach from whenever they make coffee ice cream for their company, and that's at the Chang'e in Baltimore here. So if you ever get coffee ice cream from the Chang'e, they're using a lot of our techniques in their coffee ice cream. I have someone at the door, so let me see what's going on with these people. Hold on one moment. Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Well, good morning. How are you guys doing?
I'm absolutely spectacular.
Fantastic. What can I do for you guys?
Well, I was just kind of figuring out what this was.
Oh, we do coffee. We make coffee here.
With a camera.
That's correct.
So
we do coffee live streaming right now.
Come on, are you serious?
Yeah.
So what is
So
that?
actually, our audience is listening to our conversation at the moment.
Oh my gosh. This is
But we roast coffee for wholesale and online sales. We're a company called Spro, S-P-R-O. So you can find us at sprocoffee.com. And yeah, that's what we do.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Just had breakfast across the street?
No, we just kind of like we're in the area.
Oh.
We're like looking at this building and didn't know who was here.
Oh, very good, very good.
So my name is Dr. Chad Blaker. How are
Chad,
you?
nice to meet you. I'm Jay.
Jay?
Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Well, this is great.
Well, all right. Nice to meet you guys.
Well, thanks. Cheers.
Oh, cheers to you. Sorry, I have to go back to the audio. They're all, that's what we're broadcasting at the moment.
Hello,
So.
have a blessed day, all.
Thank you. Have a good one. All right, so there it is. That's one of the things that we have here at the roastery. There's always someone that's willing to stop by and hang out and come by for a moment. So there it is. We do coffee with a camera. Yeah, that's for sure. All right, let's catch up a little bit here. A good balance of flavors is wonderful. I'm totally with you on that. Totally with you on that, Aztec. And Dannon coffee yogurt is very good. Oh, I've never tried that, I'll have to give that a try. Drag those. Some people don't necessarily want to be dragged in. But so he mentioned that they were looking at buildings. So the landlord, a friend of mine, she's been, she put this building on the market. So there's a whole complex here that includes a bigger building next door. We have the other part of the studio, and then our building here. And so it's all in the same compound. She's trying to sell it for the asking price is $2 million, which is, I think, a little bit high. But, if she can sell it, all the better. Hopefully we get good landlords that we can still work with and we don't have to move. That's always the great fear with any kind of change in ownership. But yeah. All right, so that's pretty much it. I guess we've got some of our pu'er and our mooncake to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Harvest Festival. Again, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, Asian Americans United is staging a big Mid-Autumn Harvest Festival in Philadelphia tomorrow, September 30th. Let me finish before I'm chatting. Like it's really good, but really it's quite thick. Like I can't eat the rest of this. I probably should have offered them the Dr. Chad and his wife Yuma. I should have just offered them some mooncake. But if they come back again, we'll give some to them. But check those out. And then next week, I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we'll figure it out. I got to go to VidCon this weekend. VidCon started last night. If you're on the industry track where you're one of the creators that's going there for the industry side of things, started last night with reception, and then today's the first full day, and then tomorrow and Sunday are the big fan days. So I'm taking my nephew for the fan days. So I'll be at VidCon in Baltimore for the next 2 days, all weekend long. And then my friends were like, oh, it's going to be crazy down there because there's also the baseball game. So it's like, oh, right, because the Orioles now have made it into the AL American League East champions. I have to be honest, I haven't followed baseball for many years, so I don't really know how that all plays out. I'm very excited. But you know, the last time I think the last time we had gone this far, I was in 8th grade. So it's been a while. I miss the mean streets of Philly. I don't know, Aztec. From what I've been seeing on YouTube in the Kensington area of Philly, it looks pretty well. I guess it's not so mean. It's just more like everybody's like doped out and zombie like. So I don't know. I kind of hear you on that. I remember back in the late 80s when I was going to New York, and then the early 90s when I was at NYU. You know, New York City was a pretty rough and tumble. Probably not as bad as the 70s, because when I watched the TV show The Continental, and if that's accurate to how it looked in the 70s, man, it really was kind of a dump up there. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened to that place? Like, I thought it was kind of bad back in the 80s, but the 70s looks really rough and tumble there. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday with more coffee Q&A. We're going to go away from our tea. Today's just an anomaly. In case you're just joining us or watching us on the replay, you're wondering, why does coffee Q&A have all about tea? Once in a while, we'll do things like that. And yeah, so there it is. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope the weather's nice for you. And yeah, see you then. And until next time. You too there, Mom.